welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylin and this is Full Purpose and Heart. If you are new here and you haven't seen me before, I welcome you here. This is a channel where I just talk a lot about our homeschooling life and what we're doing over here on our side of the mountain. Lots of curriculum and reviews and just kind of updates as to how things are going for us. So again, welcome if you're new. So in this video, I want to share with you guys a little bit about what I have learned and how I have implemented a looping schedule into our homeschool day. I am a public school teacher by trade, and so in introducing a looping system was something very foreign to me, really new, and so I'm kind of excited and things have been going really well. I mentioned it a couple of videos back and lots of you guys were like, tell me more about this, like teach me what are you doing? So that's what this video is going to be. Let me show you what I am doing, how I kind of organized it, and the benefits that I have felt in doing so. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, my friends, so looping. The idea of looping was actually presented to me by one of my friends, and she is a brand new homeschooler and was feeling super overwhelmed with everything that was expected of her or what she felt was expected of her. And so after we were talking about it for a while, she kind of decided, like, you know what, I'm not gonna do every subject every day anymore. Like, it's just too overwhelming and it's too much. And like the public school teacher in me was like, oh, what? You're not gonna do it every day? You know, like that's what I was trained to do. That's what I was used to doing. And it had been working relatively well in our classroom up until recently, I think. So when she started like expressing her frustration and her need for change, that's what really opened my eyes. And so I started, I came back to the University of YouTube and just started learning about and seeing what other YouTube mamas were doing out there. So a shout out and a thank you to all of the YouTube homeschool community that shares their journey, because it really does help inspire me and help me mold our journey over here. So anyway, I got onto this path of looping and learned about how instead of structuring your day where every day you do all of the subjects, which is what I've been doing, you create a looping schedule where instead of hitting subjects in a particular daily routine, then you kind of do it through what is called a loop. So a loop is, in essence, is focusing on one subject until you feel like you have completed everything that you want to in that particular subject, and then moving on to the next subject area. You can create a loop for different parts of your school day. So maybe you just want like a language arts loop, or maybe you want to do just kind of like maybe just art in general loop. But for me, I did a loop for the what's the word I'm thinking of? Anyway, just the extra subjects that we have to cover every day. So every day we do English and math. Those are the two that we always do. And then the third chunk of our day or time block of our day is looping. And these are the subjects that we've decided to loop. So when you go to make your loop, then the first thing that you need to decide is what subjects do you want to do every day, if you want to do that. And if you don't want to do your subjects every day, then you need to decide what subjects you're going to loop. So for me, because I do math and our language arts every day, after that I had a few subjects that I wanted to hit that weren't being hit on a regular basis. So this is what my loop looks like, okay? Essentially what I've done is I wanted to read aloud with my kids more frequently. I wanted to make sure I was incorporating an art lesson, because sometimes my art and my spelling, which I'll talk about in a second, they were not happening at all, because by the time I finished math and English and a little bit of history and then felt a bunch of guilt for never doing science, everything else just kind of went off by the wayside. So I was incorporating these things into a loop to ensure that they were getting done. So read alouds was one of them. Spelling was another one. We had been missing practicing our spelling every single day, and then weeks would pass and we hadn't done one spelling list. So incorporating it into our loop, I was going to make sure that our spelling got done. Art, like I mentioned before, I was always either out of energy, or I didn't have the supplies, or I didn't have an art project prepared. So then we just weren't being creative in our classroom, which is what I was missing from the days that I was teaching preschool in our home, because that always required us to have some kind of arts and crafts hands-on project every day. So I put it on the list. History, I wanted to make sure that that was included on a very frequent basis. Spelling and poetry. I really have been loving following people on social media who do poetry tea time. And so I wanted to incorporate that in our day as well. So what I did is I wrote down those subjects. How many were there? 5. Read alouds, spelling, art, history, and poetry. So I had 5 subjects that I wanted to incorporate. And I just wrote down how many times in a given loop I wanted to cover those things. For me, read alouds is super important. I just really love reading to my kids. I love the quiet time that they can kind of do some quiet activity to keep themselves busy. I love reading to them. So read alouds was something that I want to do 3 times in a loop. So next to read alouds, I wrote the number 3. Spelling, I feel like it's important. My children have atrocious spelling. We are going to be addressing that in the next school year. So I wanted to make sure that that was getting done. Art, so I put that 2 times. Art, I put 1 time, and poetry, I put 1 time, okay? So then I make my loop. And what a loop is it's a schedule that will allow you to hit all of your subjects as you want to. Now, here's the tip. I'm sure that yellow does all kinds of funny things to my face and lighting, but that's how it is. So here's the trick. This schedule does not mean on a daily basis. So on Monday, we do read alouds. On Tuesday, we do spelling. On Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday. It's not meant to do that. You can set it up like that. And as a person who's very calendar oriented, that's very easy for me to do. And some weeks I do that. But on some occasions, we finish a particular area rather quickly that I feel like, we can actually move on to the next area. So for example, read alouds usually takes a long time. Sometimes I read for an hour to my students, my kiddos. But other times I don't read that much and we finish the chapter or we finish the book or the kids are restless or I'm restless. I don't know, like life happens, right? So I might only do this for 10 minutes. Well, then I'm like, gosh, it's only 10 o'clock. Like we got some more time we got to spend doing some school, right? So then I just moved down. I'm like, all right, let's do the next spelling activity. Let's pull out the spelling book. So that would be right here. Art is typically its own day because I really get into our art lessons, especially since I started using our Evan Moore resource, How to Teach a Child Art, How to Teach Art to Kids, I think is what it's called. Anyway, it's a really phenomenal lesson plan, and all I have to do is just open it up and be like, all right, let's cut up some paper, or let's grab a piece of white paper and let's just do this activity. So that's been just a really great, saving grace. And then we're back to read aloud. So it's possible that we can do an art project and then I would do the read alouds in the same day. It's possible that I won't. So you just kind of go through, and how I do this, let me give you 2 tips. Number 1, I have a whiteboard up here behind me. I actually just put a magnet on here and I magnetize this to my whiteboard. And then I get my dry erase marker and I put little check marks next to these as we go along all the way down the line. When we get to the poetry, then I erase them all and we start back up at the top again. And that's how we move down the loop. So our schedule, our master schedule, that's the word I'm thinking of. Our master schedule has 3 things on it: English, math, looping, right? Here's all my loops. So you'll notice I don't have science in here. Go back and watch some of our homeschool life videos and you'll figure out what's going on in our science world. But these are the subjects that I make sure that we hit on a rotating basis. It removes a ton of mom guilt because I no longer feel like, we're not doing spelling, or I'm too tired to do art, or I don't want to do this anymore, because I know that there's a set aside time in my loop that I'm going to be able to do that, okay? So tip number 1, put this on your board, get a whiteboard marker and just go do, and it'll mark them all off, okay? Tip number 2 is how you're going to store all of your looping supplies. There's lots of ways that you can do this. Let me show you how I do it. So I have this little cupboard down here. These boxes, we do work boxes. So if you haven't watched my previous videos, I have 2 students, a 2nd grader and a 4-year-old. So these 2 students, their major subjects are up here on the top. They have Bible, English, and math. right? Okay. Now down here is going to be all of my other work boxes. I have history on the side because it kind of takes a little bit of extra storage. So when we get to history, then that one's in this drawer right here. This drawer right here, what is that? Oh, I have an English drawer down there too for my son's extra English supplies that he needs. But the rest of the stuff is going to go in this drawer, and I'm going to show you how I do it here in just a second. Okay, so what I do is I went to the store and I just bought a bunch of these like folders and put a sticker on the top and put the subject that it goes with. And then on the inside, this is like a little reading journal that we did. We were reading The Magic Tree House. So this was just a resource that I got on Teachers Pay Teachers. I also have our reading log for the quarter here. And it just is kind of all kept into this one little thing. And then I also will put the book either on top of this or I'll slip it in the pocket, kind of depending, you know, how big the book is. And then on top of that, I have this like Skill Sharpener science book. Again, our science is super rough right now, so we haven't picked this up in a while, but I do have it in there because, you know, when we pick it up again here in a minute, it will have all of this stuff in there. The spelling curriculum book, so we've just been doing Spectrum Spelling. I just put the book itself in there, and then I also have, this is not in where it should be, but I just have another one of these folders, and I slip the pages in there that I need. So everything that you need for your subject is in one of these like quick little folders, and when it's that subject's time, you just pull it out of your drawer, open it up, and see where you're at and what it is that you need to do, and all of your resources are right there for you. If you have like the art project book, sometimes you can put your art materials in there or just kind of have an idea of what you're doing. But I have all of my major subjects, and then when I'm going to do it, I don't have to think, well, where is it, or is there a drawer for it or anything. I just have them all in that little cupboard for me, so I can just sit right here on the floor and we can start whatever group learning that we're supposed to be doing. So anyway, that's kind of how I go about looping. There are a couple of resources online. If you Google search it, I'll try to put them in the links below. Pam Barnhill had a bundle that she had made, although when I went to download it myself, it wasn't available. But I'll put the link below if by chance she has updated that resource. But it was a really great walkthrough of how you can start setting up your own looping schedule. Looping has been such a great benefit for me. As I mentioned before, it removed a lot of my mom guilt that I was feeling because I wasn't hitting specific subjects regularly enough. And it really cleaned up my calendar because I no longer felt like, okay, 15 minutes for spelling or 20 minutes for reading or anything like that. It really was just so much more natural, such an easier flow. And on days when we weren't on our game and everything wasn't moving smoothly, we didn't get to looping. And it wasn't a big deal because then the next day I just pick up wherever the next check mark was. So because I put this on my whiteboard, I'll just look like, okay, where's the next check mark? Well, since we didn't do looping yesterday, we're gonna do it today. So we're on history today. And it just, instead of like, well, Wednesday is history day and we didn't do it yesterday, so now we're not gonna do history at all this week. So anyway, it's just been a really great transition into having a more kind of flowing day of homeschool. It just felt so much more natural instead of forcing this like timed schedule. Between 8 and 9 we do math, between 9 and 10 we do this, I was struggling with that, and I could feel that sometimes you just need to switch. Not that the system that you're using previously doesn't work at all. Sometimes just kind of switching things up and doing something different helps with the flow of the school day. And that's what I have felt with looping, and it was just a really good kind of answer to prayer, and it's been a really great integration into our school day. So hopefully this kind of gave you some ideas or some insight into how a looping schedule can work. And hopefully you've had some thoughts into how you yourself can integrate a looping system. As I mentioned before, it works both with small curriculums or your full curriculum day. Just, you can do it day by day if you want, or which I do works better for me, is to just make it like a loop, and you just kind of go through it, and as you finish one, you move on to the next one, and hopefully finish all of them in good time. You don't want to spend too much time on one given subject, because of course then all of the others are being neglected. But anyway, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you did find some value in it. Give me a thumbs up if you did. Share this video with your friends if you feel like maybe they are looking for some looping in their worlds as well. And I hope to catch you in one of my next videos. We'll talk to you later, guys.